Welcome back to the VGC Casters Cup. It is time for the second season, the second edition of our little draft league that some of the Pokemon casters have decided to put together. I'm Jake Muller, the captain of the 5 Move Volcaronas. I'm a VGC caster and player in North America, and I just love Pokemon. I play the TCG, I play Go, I play a lot of other stuff, but VGC is always going to be my first love, and I'm so excited for another season of this draft league. If you followed along last year, you'll know that I got to the semifinals, which is great. Was very happy with that. It was a very, very fun experience, and so I'm thrilled for the second one to be starting up. It's a very similar format, but we're going to go back over the rules a little bit just to give everyone a little bit of a refresher. We are playing Regulation F, so we're just going to play the current format that is Regulation F. That will last throughout the entirety of the league. We're not going to switch up the rules midway. Standard best of 3 battles, just like normal VGC. However, unlike normal VGC, we're playing closed team sheet with open Terra types. So what that means is we'll, connect on Battle Stadium. We'll, make sure we're all ready to start before we hit, preparations complete to join the battle. We will send each other our Terra types, but not anything else. So I will not know any of my opponent's items, abilities, attacks. I think that's it, but Terra types are open, so we will send each other those. There are 14 of us this season, down from 16, so there are going to be 2 divisions of 7 teams each. We're going to have 7 weeks of regular season, but that includes 1 bye week for everyone, because we're just playing 6 matches against everyone in our pool. After the standard 7 weeks are over, we'll all split into a bracket, so the top 4 from each pool will advance to a single elimination bracket, much like a top 8 at a regional or international. Pretty simple format for our league here. For the draft, all the Pokemon that are legal in Regulation F were tiered into one of 6 tiers. They go S through E. During the draft, we will all draft 12 Pokemon in total. It's exactly 12. You can't go less or more. And how it will work is we have a certain number of free picks and then a certain number of picks that we have to use a certain number of points on. So from our 12 picks, you will always have 1 S tier pick, 1 A tier pick, 2 B tier picks, 2 C tier picks, 1 D tier pick, and 1 E tier pick. That totals 8. So there's 8 free slots, essentially. Those remaining 4, you have 130 points to split up on those picks. Again, you can't do less than 12 Pokemon total, so you can't do 2 S tiers with your points because then you only have 10 points left and you need 20 at least to get 2 more Pokemon. So you have to kind of budget yourself there. With those extra points picks, you're only able to take 1 more S tier Pokemon. Some people do that. Some people opt for 2 A tier Pokemon. You can afford that. I think the most common strategy is likely going to be SAEE. So you get 60 for the S, 50 for the A for 110, and then 2 more E's to make 130. That's what I did last season. Spoiler alert, that's what I did again here. In a draft format, I think the kind of high tier Pokemon are going to be really important. And so I think those S tier and A tier picks are a little bit more valuable than maybe the B's and C's and D's. But hey, everyone's got their own strategies. I'm really excited to see how my fellow coaches are going to assemble their teams. But we're here to talk about mine, the 5 Move Volcaronas. There's 1 repeat Pokemon from last season. If you followed along, you will know when we get there. But otherwise, it's a brand new regulation, brand new format, and brand new team. So for the draft, last season, I believe I was a 2nd pick. So I kind of had the turn pick, except at the end of the 2nd round. So like first round, it's a snake draft. I didn't mention that. So in the first round, there's a set order. You'll go 1 through 14, and then 14 through 1. So if you're 1, you'll start the first round and then end the 2nd round, and you'll go again, so you get 2 picks in a row. If you're 14, you'll end the first round, then start the 2nd round and get 2 picks in a row. Last season, I was pick number 2, so I almost had 2 picks in a row, just on the kind of latter end of the second couple rounds. This season, I was the 13th pick, so I was the second to last. I kind of think those positions near the very ends are some of the best spots you can be in. I really like the ability to pick a Pokemon and know that there's a very, very low chance that whatever you want to pick next is not going to be taken right out from under you, especially on the one in the last spot. You would just pick 2 Pokemon at once. You can always just take combos, take duos, take 2 really good partners. Being so close to the end, it's almost the same thing, and you know that only one person could potentially snipe you, and so you can maybe kind of pick around that strategically, which we will get to. I managed to do successfully at least once. But let's just jump right into it. Again, I was the second to last pick in the draft, so at the end of the first round, a lot of the important, kind of best Pokemon in Regulation F had been taken. Examples like Fluttermane, both the Urshifus, Raging Bolt. I think those were things I was never going to get. They're just really good. But one Pokemon that I considered to be one of the best in Regulation F was still available when it came to my pick, so I grabbed Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is very strong in its own right. 130 base attack is great. Decent defenses, but the Sword of Ruin ability is very, very good. It boosts your attack power essentially by lowering everything else's defense. It's very fast, one of the fastest Pokemon in the format. So I think it's a pretty good pick here. It's also got a surprisingly good move pool. It almost always just runs Ice Move, Sacred Sword, Sucker Punch in VGC, but it has a lot of other cool options. It has Ice Shard for some different priority, more consistent priority. It's got a bunch of Crunch, Lash Out, Throat Chop, all these different dark moves that aren't Sucker Punch that are more consistent and more damage. Icy Wind is cool. It's got some other neat support options that are a little bit underexplored in standard Regulation F. So the combination of kind of some of those cool options and also it just being really good made it a pretty easy pick for me, especially because it combos very well with other Pokemon, which I think is very important in a draft. I took Chien-Pao, and in the back of my mind, I was thinking, all right, I know I get at least one more S tier pick with those 60 points I can spend. At this point in the draft, Pokemon like Dragonite, Entei, Hisuian Arcanine, a lot of these Pokemon that are known for running extreme speed, sometimes like a Terra Normal Choice Band extreme speed set, had not yet been taken. So I was like, okay, I can get Chien-Pao. That pairs very, very well with those Pokemon that like to abuse physical priority attacks. But I also thought that when it got back around to my second set of picks, at least one of those would still be up. So I kind of did a gamble, and instead of taking a Dragonite and Entei with my second pick, I thought, what can stop those? What is really annoying for these Pokemon that like to use these very, very powerful priority moves? And of course, Farigiraf is very, very good against all those Pokemon, so I took it for myself. I decided that, Chien-Pao and Farigiraf are also a decent combo. We get very, very fast Chien-Pao. We have Farigiraf that can either, set up my own Trick Room for some of my own partner Pokemon, or prevent Trick Room, reset the Trick Room if someone else uses it against me. Armor Tail is very good. Really, the main reason I took it was to block other people from having it, because I knew I wanted to go for some priority spam later down the line. And Farigiraf is also just a very good Pokemon. It is A tier in our draft, so it was another one of my free picks. I didn't have used any of my points just yet, which felt nice. And it's also got some very, very good support options. Of course, Helping Hand is very good. Trick Room is very good. Armor Tail is very good against other Pokemon that are going to have priority moves. It's got some decent offenses as well. You see the 110 special attack. The Throat Spray set is pretty popular. It gets to show off some of its offensive capabilities. Also, some of these abilities, like Sap Sipper, is almost definitely going to come into play at some point during this season. The nice part about draft is that you know exactly what 12 Pokemon you can face. So let's say I'm playing against a team that maybe has a grass type, but no Pokemon that like to use priority attacks. I'll just throw Sap Sipper on my Farigiraf and call it a day. So I was very happy with these first two picks, right? I got my fast Chien-Pao. It's going to enable these Pokemon that like to use priority moves. And I have my Farigiraf. No one else can use Farigiraf against me. And also I have a really reliable Trick Room setter if I want to go down that route later on in the draft. So when it came back around to my turn, I knew I was going to pick my S tier and A tier Pokemon that I had to use my points on this turn. My kind of mentality going into this draft was, we're all going to have some Pokemon that just aren't very good. If I have Pokemon I know are really strong, like my first 4 picks, if I know I'm bringing them to every game, I'm going to be fine with that. I'm happy with that draft. So I knew I wanted Dragonite. At this point, Dragonite was still up. Again, I'm second to last pick. Sierra was the last pick in the draft. Sierra Dom, the other VG caster here in North America. But I saw that she had already taken Goldengo and Wellspring Ogerpon with her first 2 picks. Those are both S-tier Pokemon. She cannot take an S-tier Pokemon on her next 2 picks. So I picked my A tier first. Slightly counterintuitive without that context, but I wanted to make sure that I got the A Pokemon I thought was very, very good. And then the S tier I could take on my pick after Sierra because she is unable to snipe that pick. So, kind of mentioned earlier, the three main priority Pokemon I was thinking of were Dragonite, Entei, and Hisuian Arcanine. Looking at Sierra's two picks, I mentioned she had Goldengo and Wellspring Ogerpon. Hisuian Arcanine goes very, very well with those two. So I just took it. I did not want to give that to Sierra if she wanted it. And also it was something I wanted to use anyway. Intimidate's very good. Rockhead Head Smash is very good. The Choice Band set is getting pretty common now in the standard Regulation F format. And so I was pretty happy with this pick. It's got some cool support. Again, Will-O-Wisp and Snarl are both very good moves. But of course, kind of just the fast offense that this offers alongside the Intimidate with that utility, I think made it a very good pick. I was correct in that Sierra was going to draft Arcanine with one of her two picks. So Sarah, I'm very sorry, but I just had to have it for myself. And I'm glad that I kind of took a minute to realize, oh, I shouldn't pick Dragonite next. Well, spoiler, Dragonite's my other pick here. I shouldn't pick my S tier next because I want to make sure that I'm kind of thinking ahead in the draft a little bit more than just taking what I know is really good. So I did spoil it a little bit. Dragonite was my fourth pick. I was a little bit surprised I was able to get like this core as my first four. Chien-Pao, Farigiraf, Arcanine, Dragonite felt really strong to me, and I was very, very happy with this. Dragonite, especially in draft, I think Dragonite is probably one of the best Pokemon in a draft format because it can do so many different things. It's got so many coverage moves. Just to like name a few off the top of my head, any dragon move you can think of: Aerial Ace, Extreme Speed, Stomping Tantrum, Ice Spinner, Thunder Punch. I'm sure there's a million more, Fire Punch, that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but whatever team you're playing against, again, the exact 12, and really it's probably more like the exact 9. There's probably at least 3 Pokemon on every team that are just not good that you can kind of ignore in the team building phase. So you can just tailor whatever you want on your moveset to essentially counter team your opponent the best you can. Alongside that, Dragonite can run a special set: Hurricane, Draco Meteor, Ice Beam, Flamethrower. There's so many different options that Dragonite has, alongside Tailwind and Haze and Dragon Dance and a bunch of different setup options as well. So it really just felt like a no-brainer, especially this late in the draft. We're 1/3 of the way through the draft, or I am at least 1/3 of the way through the draft at this point, and I just picked up what I think is a really strong Pokemon. So I'm kind of feeling like I got away with murder here, especially with these first 4 picks. Chien-Pao setting up Arcanine and Dragonite to do much more damage. Farigiraf there to make sure no one else can block my priority while also having Helping Hand, having some nice coverage, enabling a Trick Room option later on. I was very happy. Draft keeps going. Again, after my 4th pick, I've got, 22 picks between then and my next one. So I spent that time kind of thinking about what I needed. At this point, I had taken 2 S tier Pokemon and 2 A tier Pokemon, so I can no longer take anything from those tiers. I've got to fill out my B, C, D, E tier Pokemon. So I was kind of looking through some of the tiers on our little draft document, and I was thinking to myself, maybe I can't draft another A or S tier Pokemon, but what if I can use someone else's? So I just took a Ditto. Ditto was on my radar for the last edition of our draft as well, but that was Regulation H, and the average power level of each Pokemon is slightly lower because we didn't have Pokemon like Fluttermane or Urshifu or Raging Bolt. Those kind of mid-tier legendary Pokemon that aren't considered the super good restricteds, but weren't allowed in that, nothing that can be labeled legendary format that was Regulation H. In this format, though, I think there are a lot more Pokemon that you can copy with Ditto that can make an extra impact. If the gap between S tier Pokemon and, let's say, C or D tier Pokemon is wider, I believe Ditto's C. If I can make my C tier Pokemon and actually an S tier Pokemon, that's a huge boost. So I just figured I didn't have anything I really think I needed at this point. I still had half my draft left to fill any holes I needed. So I'm just going to take the Ditto. I think it's a high value pick for one of those lower tiers. I'm fully blanking. Ditto was either C or D, I'm not remembering. But either way, I was happy with that. Just as a way to maybe give me an extra S tier Pokemon. I play against a Fluttermane. I can't have Flutter Mane on my team, but I can have a Ditto, which can be a Flutter Mane. It can be an Urshifu. It can be a Raging Bolt. It can be a Chi-Yu. It can be whatever we want it to be. So it's going to be whatever I want it to be. Next up, you will notice I have 3 very strong physical attackers. I have a Farigiraf, which can use special attacks, but is not necessarily known for its offense. And then I have Ditto, which is kind of everything and nothing at the same time. So I knew my next few picks should probably be some special attacking Pokemon. So the first choice, I believe this is a C tier pick. I went with Blastoise. Blastoise has some neat utility. It's got Fake Out, it's got Helping Hand, it's got Icy Wind. It's got some decent stats, pretty bulky for kind of an average, mid-tier Pokemon. Also has some decent offensive capabilities. It's got Shell Smash if I want to use that at some point. It's got Water Spout if I want to take advantage of, it's okay speed, maybe throw a Choice Scarf on, get some powerful Water Spouts out there. It's a nice little hybrid. It's not going to be very good at support or very good at offense, but it can do a little bit of both at the same time, which I thought was a pretty valuable pickup here, especially because I didn't have a Water type yet. I think Water type Pokemon in general are very good. They offer some very good defensive utility for a team. Blastoise, especially with Flip Turn, it can be a decent pivot as well. So this was one of my C tier pickups, was Blastoise. Not a whole lot to say about Blastoise, honestly. We all kind of know what it does, but I thought it was a decent add here as well. Going forward, we're halfway through the draft at this point. I started to realize, okay, I do actually need some special attack firepower here. Blastoise is fine. Farigiraf is fine. They can both do okay special damage, but I need something that's actually going to be able to hit hard on the special side, so I'm not just fully relying on physical Pokemon. Like, I face something that uses Iron Defense and all of a sudden I lose. Someone sets up Reflect and then I lose. I don't want that to just be kind of the narrative for this team. So my next pick was Gengar. Gengar I think is a pretty cool pick here. It's, again, one of those Pokemon that has very good coverage. Of course, alongside the Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb. Icy Wind is very good. It gets Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, I think Energy Ball, Psychic. It's got some really good offensive coverage options, while also being one of those Pokemon that has very good utility as well. I mentioned Icy Wind already. That's great speed control. It also has Taunt, Encore, Disable, Perish Song, Will-O-Wisp. It's high value attacks in a format like this where, again, you know what you're going to face, you know what tools will be useful in this matchup, and it is closed team sheet. So if I have an Encore on my Gengar, my opponent will never know until I use it, and at that point it might be too late to save a game. And so I think Gengar is going to be pretty useful here. Where are we at now? I've got 7 Pokemon. I've got pretty decent fast mode, like Chien-Pao, Arcanine, Dragonite, Gengar, all relatively fast Pokemon. Farigiraf is there. Kind of nice, again, out of Trick Room. It's got Armored Tail, it's got Helping Hand. Can also do some decent damage on its own. But I wanted something that could actually be a threat in Trick Room as well. So I didn't want to just have Farigiraf as like a anti-Trick Room measure. I wanted to be able to be offensive at the same time. So my next pick was Hariyama. So right now it's Hariyama. When we were doing the draft, originally Hariyama had been drafted earlier on, and that was one of the Pokemon that I knew I wanted for a while, but then it got taken by someone else. That happens in drafts. That's totally fine. As I said, I did that to Sierra this draft, so who am I to be angry about it? So I originally drafted Kinkeldurr here. Kinkeldurr being a slow fighting type. I thought fighting was really good typing with my team. It resisted Dark, it resisted Rock, both of which can be a little bit annoying for this squad so far. And of course was slow and powerful in Trick Room. However, after the draft completed, in the period between the draft and week 1, the person who drafted Hariyama, I believe it was David Partington from the UK, ended up trading it out for something else in the draft pool. It got released back into the draft pool, so then I was able to swap Kinkeldurr for Hariyama. I considered talking about Kinkeldurr in the draft portion here, but Hariyama was always what I wanted anyway, so we're just going to talk about Hariyama. Again, I wanted something that could be very powerful in Trick Room. Base 120 attack, 50 speed is pretty low. We've got Guts, Flame Orb is a really good combination. It has some good utility as well. It's got Fake Out, it has Feint, it has Wide Guard, all moves that can be really useful. You also have Thick Fat. Thick Fat can be really good too. If I'm playing against a team that has a bunch of fire types or a bunch of ice types, or like a sun or snow team, for example, that could come in handy. It's got Belly Drum. It can like do a little bit of setup as well. But I think more importantly, I drafted it so I could have the fake out, I could have the fighting typing, which I thought was really valuable both offensively and defensively with this team, and of course something that could be used in Trick Room to do a lot of damage. And I think Hariyama fits all of those boxes very nicely, especially for what is ostensibly a lower tier Pokemon. It's like not something you see very often, if at all, in Regulation F, but I think for the purpose of this draft format, I think it's actually a pretty good pick here. Next pick. This next pick was made, again, while I had Kinkeldr on the team. So if I was to go back and redraft, I think this is probably the only one I wouldn't take, just because it kind of overlaps with Hariyama a lot more than it does with Kinkeldr. I did pick up Scraggy again. This is my one repeat from season number 1. At this point in the draft, I didn't have any fake out, and I was looking through the E-tier Pokemon, and I was like, well, I mean, I picked up Scraggy last time to have a fake out Pokemon. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's horrible. Again, in the E tier and the D tier, like those last 2 tiers of Pokemon, you're doing a lot of barrel scraping. You are scraping the bottom of the barrel a lot of the time when you're making picks in those tiers. And Scraggy, I thought, had enough utility to justify being one of my... I had to pick 3 E tier Pokemon. The 1 free pick, and then since I took S and A with points, I needed the 2 10-pointers at the end as well. So Scraggy being an E-tier pickup, like, all right, Intimidate, Fake Out, Fighting Typing, it does overlap with Kinkeldr a bit, overlaps with Hariyama even more, unfortunately, because they are both, Fake Out fighting types. I don't even really need the Intimidate because I have the Hisuian Arcanine, so I don't really know if I'll bring Scraggy too often in this season. I didn't bring it too often last season either, but especially now that it has a little bit more overlap. This might be something I trade out later on during the season, or just end up not using a ton of, because it has some utility, but maybe not as much over something like Hariyama. We'll see, though. Could be very useful in some specific matchups. Next, I wanted maybe one more thing that could take advantage of Trick Room decently well. I didn't have a Grass type. I didn't have a Dragon type. I was thinking... maybe Hydrapple. Hydrapple was kind of on my mind for a little bit throughout this draft. But Hydrapple would have made me even more weak to Ice-type moves, which I wasn't super thrilled with my matchup on. And so I didn't want to spend my last C-tier pick on Hydrapple, because I thought there were maybe some other Pokemon that would be somewhat useful out of that C-tier. So I was looking at other E-tier options and came across my guy Flapple. I played enough Randbats on Pokemon Showdown in Generation 8 to know that Flapple can actually sweep entire teams. You get one Dragon Dance up and all of a sudden those Grav Apples are taking one-hit KOs. I don't really think that's going to happen here. Flapple is probably something I'm not going to bring too often, but like, let's say there's a scenario where my opponent has a bunch of Pokemon weak to grass types. Maybe Flapple comes in. Grav Apple with Hustle is very powerful. Gluttony, maybe you can do some funny Belly Drum, not Belly Drum, it doesn't have Belly Drum. Substitute Salac or Lychee Berry, I don't know. I'm not super optimistic about Flapple's prospects here. But maybe it can be powerful. Hustle is very good. It's already got 110 attack, and then Hustle boosts it even further. Of course, you do give up some accuracy in the meantime, so a little bit of a risky Pokemon here, but I think there might be times when it actually matches up pretty well. Again, I think the scenario would be like a bunch of Water-type Pokemon, a bunch of Rock-type Pokemon, not many Pokemon that can hit Dragon types very well. It would have to be a very specific matchup that I bring this to, but I think it's something that could come. Why not? Yeah, you got to fill out the Z tiers somehow. All right, last 2 picks. So again, I'm like the second to last pick in the draft. So when I make this Flapple pick, I'm 10th. This is my 10th pick, rather. That whole loops back around, and then we start round 11. We're going all the way through. I still have 1 C-tier Pokemon left to pick, and I have 1 E-tier Pokemon left to pick. I was looking through the C-tier Pokemon. A few of them came to mind. A few of them seemed like they had things that could contribute to the team. But the one I kept coming back to was Hisuian Electrode. Funny enough, It is very, very fast. I believe I don't believe it, it's 150 speed. It's right there, which is one of the naturally fastest things on the format. Of course, there are plenty of Pokemon that are going to outspeed it, either with a Choice Scarf or, booster energy speed, like a Flutter Mane or something like that. But usually, without any other speed control in play, Electrode will be the fastest thing on the field. And it's actually got some decent support options as well. Electroweb, very good speed control. It allows Electrode to make use of its speed to kind of give its partner some speed as well. If you look at the rest of my team, Arcanine, Dragonite, Gengar, they're all kind of in that fast but not super fast tier. And that tier is very good with moves like Electroweb or Icy Wind or any of those like one speed lowering attacks, because they're kind of in the perfect spot to outspeed everything above them at -1. So I thought Electroweb could be really good here. Again, I didn't have a grass type before Flapple, and I don't really consider Flapple a Pokemon, much less a grass type, so I wanted at least one more grass type here. Again, I think that's just something that's really valuable. The ability to get around Rage Powder is great. Grass is pretty good defensively against a lot of things. And Electrode, with its okay 80 special attack, can hit pretty hard with Leaf Storm if I need it to. Also, some other support options got Taunt. I think it has Reflect. One thing I learned is that Hisuian Electrode has Reflect, but not Light Screen, and Kanto Electrode has Light Screen, but not Reflect. Fun trivia fact for you. But some other decent options there as well. And of course, it's always kind of good to just have a fast Pokemon. Also, 3 decent abilities here too. Soundproof blocks all sound moves. Static can be annoying in a format like this where you're not sure if you can use those physical attacks against it, and all of a sudden your Urshifu is paralyzed. Like, oh, okay, great. And then Aftermath. Again, if there's nothing that I really need to paralyze or no sound moves, I'll just throw Aftermath on there and maybe get an extra bit of damage out of Electrode if I need to. So I was pretty happy with this pick. I think Electrode rounded out the team really well. It gave me a little bit more speed, gave me a little bit more speed control, and it just kind of pulled everything together in a way that I appreciated. With the last pick, at this point I just need one more E-tier Pokemon. There's nothing in the E-tier that I thought could change the whole strategy of my team in a meaningful way. So just looking through the E tiers, what here is funny, what here could maybe be useful in some situations. And I remember last season I did have an E tier pick, Dugtrio, that was actually pretty good. The ground type Arena Trap, both of those complemented my team last season very well. Unfortunately, Dugtrio did get taken before this. It was E tier again, and I probably would have taken it at this point if I could. So instead of Dugtrio, I took the other ground type with Arena Trap. Trapinch. Trapinch? Honestly, I actually think I will probably bring Trapinch at least once, if not more than once, throughout this season. Base 10 speed means it's, I think, the slowest thing in the game other than Shuckle, and so it's going to be able to underspeed, for example, Torkoal in Trick Room. Someone drafted Fungus, and it's slower than Fungus even, so that's kind of nice. And Arena Trap is just a good ability. You saw me make really good use of it last season. I think it's something valuable to have. Trapinch has 100 base attack as well. It's all of his other stats are just bad, but its attack being 100 is equivalent to Flygon's. So if you kind of have I was gonna say if you had Flygon damage calcs somewhere in your head, they're just the same. No one has Flygon damage calcs in their head, but if I do have Trick Room up and I get Trapinch on the field, unfortunately, the only ground type move it gets is Earthquake. It doesn't even get Stomping Tantrum or High Horsepower or anything. I don't have a great Earthquake partner in Trick Room other than maybe Dragonite. Whatever. Trapinch, I think, could be okay. It could be okay. It could be fine in against a team that has a couple electric types, some very fast Pokemon. I can get it on the field in Trick Room and then swap something else in to make use of Arena Trap, forcing things to not switch out. I don't know. It was an E-tier pick that I just needed to finish, and it looked like it could have some use. We'll see. So that's the team. That is the 5 Move Volcaronas for Season 2 of the VGC Casters League. I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a really fun season once again. I'm very happy with this team. Again, especially that first 4 I picked, the Chien-Pao, Farigiraf, Arcanine, Dragonite, just felt really good to me. This image is sorted by tier, so it's all the free picks first, then the points picks. So we've got my S tier picks for the Chien-Pao and Dragonite, My A's were Farigiraf Arcanine, Gengar was B, Hariyama was C, Blastoise was, wait, S, A, B, B. Okay, Chien-Pao is S, Farigiraf was A, Gengar and Hariyama were B, Blastoise and Electrode were C, Ditto was D, Scraggy was E, and Flapple and Trapinch with E. So I'm happy with this. I think it's going to be a really fun team to use. I think there's going to be a lot of extreme speed, a lot of Terra Normal, if I had to guess, but also I just love that I get to kind of mix it up as well. A lot of these Pokemon have a lot of different sets they can run, and that's what makes the team building part of Draft Leagues fun. So thanks for joining me for Season 2 of the VGC Casters Cup. This is the draft analysis, and next week we're going to have Week 1. The battles are getting started real soon, and I'm so excited to jump into another season of competition.